Hi, I'm Katie. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about my experience on Plugin as a music leader. So when Nick and Liz from Quench asked me if I'd like to be involved in the project, at first I was a little bit hesitant because it was my first offer for a kind of lead artist role. Prior to that, I'd been a shadow artist, and prior to that, I'd been a volunteer for a few years. So this was really kind of a wonderful thing for them to offer me, and kind of it shows their continuous overview of the people that work for them. They're always kind of thinking about how we can help support this person to move up to a new kind of stage in music leading. So what were the challenges that I was foreseeing at the beginning of the project? My main concern was that I am principally a clarinetist and classically trained, although my interests lie in folk music nowadays. I predicted that the music that the young people on the project would be interested in was probably not going to be similar to mine, which wasn't necessarily the case all the time, but the majority of young people wanted to make hip hop beats, electronic music, or pop songs. So, without a kind of good general knowledge of those things, I was a little bit worried. Secondly, I was concerned about my lack of ability using recording equipment and recording myself and young people or people that I was working with. So I had done a little bit of this with a different project under the Quench team called Wavelength, where I'd been a shadow artist and I'd dabbled a little bit with the recording equipment, but certainly didn't feel like I had used the time to consolidate what I'd learned, and there were some definite kind of gaps in my knowledge. So, what did the Quench team do to help me feel like I could take this job on? The one thing that I think Quench do really well is they understand people, so they kind of in the interview process for the shadow artists, they just did an amazing job, and they each year they recruited people that really kind of understood what we were doing, and they paired us with a young person, a young music leader who could really complement our skills. So in the first year, I worked with um, a young music leader who had a lot more experience using recording equipment and recording himself. And that was really, really helpful for me. It just gave me the confidence that someone, if something went wrong with the computers, which sometimes happens, we've all been there, I knew that there was someone that could have my back and would be able to give me a helping hand, and he was absolutely an asset and taught me a lot. And in the second year, I and second and third years, sorry, I worked with some amazing young people who knew a lot more about pop music and electronic music. So all of the time, and it's a kind of shared experience of knowledge. I hope I could give them something that they could take away from the project, and I certainly learnt a lot from those young people too. So grateful to Quench for that help. After the relative ease and calm of the first year, we went into lockdown in the second, and it was suddenly kind of like the world had changed. And obviously, we needed to change our practice as well. And that kind of pandemonium at the beginning when no one knew what was happening, I still felt like the Quench team had a kind of overview and were calmly putting stuff in place for for us as their staff, for the young people in the hospitals and the staff also in the hospitals. I felt confident that we could deliver some sessions, or we could deliver material for young people to be involved with. During that time, I found it really, really useful to prepare some material for young people to work with. So, the young people in the hospitals, or for the future young people that we work with on the project. And we developed these kind of listening sheets, which was really good actually for me as practice for my own personal knowledge in the subject. So I did some listening sheets on electronic music, rap, and hip hop, and I feel like this really, consolidated some of my learning too. Also, because we had so much time, I did a lot of kind of my own work on Logic, and I found myself recording myself for fun. And this really, really helped when we got back into the settings in real life. I found that I had new skills that I definitely hadn't had before the pandemic. So, how did we manage to engage the young people during the pandemic? Well, the first thing, as I've mentioned before, was the activities and the research packs that we sent out to young people physically. So the Quench team were amazing in making sure that all hospitals had resources to engage the young people with. Secondly, we also used Zoom. Now, there are music leaders and facilitators all around the world who've now engaged with Zoom to do sessions. And at the beginning, it was kind of new practice and new technology for me, for sure. And it was a bit daunting, I have to admit. So there were some logistical problems at the beginning, but this was through nobody's fault. It was just kind of like trying to work out how best to run things with reduced staff in hospitals, and like, because many of them were ill or isolating. And also, staff were being asked to do things completely outside of their usual remit, suddenly thrown into a songwriting session. um, but the Quench team were amazing in organising that and making sure that they were pushing for the young people to have some sort of connection with outside music facilitators. So, in this last final leg of the plugin project, in its third year, I felt very confident and calm that I could deliver good workshops and good sessions with the young people that I met. I've got much kind of more experience in lots of different types of music, and I'm really confident recording and making beats using Logic. So when I reflect back how I felt right at the beginning of the project, it's a kind of world away, and it makes me realise how much I've learned. And I look forward to using that in the following years and developing that further. It's quite exciting. Okay, bye.